Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 27a, at the top of the page, with the word Peturin. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Omer, Bezeh achar zeh ha'archon chayev mipnei sheke'rav misaso. We're talking about cases where it was like a double thing. Someone, a bunch of people beat somebody, and the last person did the final blow. So let's see here. Maybe it's good to give a little introduction. Let's see. What was that case? On the bottom of 26b, it was Rabba was saying if someone threw a child from a roof. I mean, really. Again, I have to make a disclaimer here. This is just me reading it. This is the text. This is not my material. This is the Talmud. It might be, maybe it's good to say it here that, this is not just me. I have heard from a reliable source that the Vilna Gaon said regarding a Gadita that's written in Bavli, that it's exilic in nature, which means it's of the Galus, it's of our exile. It's not redeemed stuff. When the redemption comes, we won't be talking about this kind of stuff. So, with that disclaimer, I'll read these cases that are violent in nature, that are highly improbable, and in some cases, I would argue impossible. If they're impossible, then why go through endless amount of cases that will never happen? It's just creating sort of a tainted, dark imagination. But in any case, with that primer, we'll continue that Rava said if someone threw a child from a roof, another came and took a sword and impaled the child. I mean, why are we thinking about this kind of stuff? And the child died. The question of who is liable to receive the death penalty for killing the child is dependent upon the dispute between Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira and the rabbis. As it is taught in a brisa, if 10 people beat a victim with 10 sticks, whether they did so simultaneously or sequentially, they're all exempt. I would say they should all be liable. But apparently each one didn't actually kill the person, so they're exempt. It's impossible to sentence any one of them to death. Okay, now we're on top of 27a. Since no one person killed the victim, there is no death penalty for partially killing a person. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira says if they beat him sequentially, the last one to beat him is liable for the death penalty. Because death of the victim, because he brought about the victim's death closer. So too, in this case, although the first one threw the child, the one to impale him on the sword was the one to actually take his life. Because sometimes you have stories of kids falling out of a window, they survive. This happened in the case of, I'm remembering of Eric Clapton years ago, for which he wrote the story to Heaven. They didn't throw his kid out, but the kid fell out of the building. In that case, the kid actually died. But at any rate, let's continue. To impale him on his sword was the one to hasten his death, and therefore, according to Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, he would be liable to receive the death penalty. The Gemara discusses a similar scenario. If one threw a child from a roof, and a forewarned ox, a shor muad, came and impaled the child with its horns. Okay, let's think about that. That's highly unlikely also. A child's flying out, and an ox comes and sticks it with its horns. Wow. And the child died. The question of whether or not the owner of the ox is liable to pay ransom is dependent upon the dispute between Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Baroka, and the rabbis. As it is taught in a Braita, I used to know someone who said Braita, so sometimes I'll just break into that memory in his honor, his merit, his memory. I see, if he's watching this right now, he used to say Braita. I like to say Braita. Okay, so I'm doing it in his memory. The verse, he shall give for the redemption of his life, Exodus 21:30, V'nasan pidyon nafsho. He shall give a redemption of his life, without a vav, actually. Interesting. At least here they spell it that way. Exodus 21:30 indicates that he must pay the value of the injured party. In other words, the one who was killed. Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, says he must pay the value of the one responsible for the damage, since the child that was thrown off the roof had no monetary value at the time he was gored by the ox, as it was as if he was already dead. Don't shoot me, I'm just a messenger. I didn't say it, that's just, that's me saying it. The rabbis would exempt the owner of the ox from paying ransom. According to Rabbi Yishmael, the son of Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka, the owner of the ox must pay his own value to the family of the victim. The Amar Rabbah, Nafal mirosh hagag v'nitka b'isha. This is even more ridiculous and actually I would argue impossible. Chayiv b'arba devarim uv'yivimto lo kana. Okay. This is a little bit, viewer discretion advised. This is a little bit, adult material. Rabbah says a similar halacha, and I think this came up in Yevamos. Just imagine this case. A man falls from a roof, and while he was falling, he inserted it into a woman. I want to argue this is impossible to happen. Okay. He fell from a roof, so that means he was naked on the roof. And not only was he unclothed, but he had to be, ready to go. And not only that, the woman had to be no clothing. Yeah, it's just impossible. And which woman is walking around the street without clothing? I mean, just think about it for a second. This case, loy hoiv loy nivra. It never was, it never will be. So Rabbah says that if a man fell from a roof, nafal mirosh hagag v'nitka b'isha, he's falling and was inserted into a woman due to the force of the fall, but he did not have the intention to engage in sexual intercourse. That's impossible because he has to be, good to go. And in order to be good to go, a person needs to have it in order to focus. The person has to focus to get it in there. You know what I mean? How could you say he has no intention? It's impossible not to have intention. I'm sorry, this is exilic stuff. He is liable to pay the 4 types of indemnity. Check this one out. And if this woman was his yavama, waiting for him to perform levirate marriage, he has not acquired his wife through his active intercourse. This is true even though a levirate marriage is ordinarily effected through sexual intercourse, even if unintentional, if he thought that she was someone else. Nevertheless, since in this case he did not intend to engage in intercourse at all, it's not possible. Physiologically, it's not possible. It's not possible. I don't care what anyone says. It is not physically possible to do this. Engage in intercourse at all. The levirate marriage is not affected. And here's where it gets even more anyway. Chayiv ben nezek b'tzar bripa v'sheves ava boshes lo. He's not liable. Gemara explains what are the 4 types of indemnity that he is liable to pay. He is liable to pay for the damage, for the pain, for the medical costs, and for the cost and for loss of livelihood, but he is not liable to pay compensation for humiliation. I would think humiliation is the most thing. As we learned in the Mishnah 86a, one is not liable to pay compensation for humiliation unless he intends to humiliate the injured party. And that was certainly not the case in the situation. Yeah. Okay. Let's just continue. And Rabbah says, another similar halacha, if one fell from a roof due to an atypical wind, such that it could not have been anticipated in advance that he would fall, and while falling he caused damage and humiliated the injured party, he is liable for the damage but exempt from paying the 4 types of indemnity, as he did not intend to fall. If he fell due to a typical wind and caused damage and humiliated the injured party while falling, he is liable to pay the 4 types of indemnity, as his fall was caused by negligence, but he is nevertheless exempt from paying compensation for humiliation, as he did not intend to fall. But if he tumbled while falling so he could fall on this person in order to protect himself from the impact with the ground, he is liable to pay compensation for humiliation as well, because although he did not intend to cause shame, he did intend to land on the person. The halacha that one is exempt from paying compensation for humiliation unless he intended to strike his victim is, as it is taught in a braita, from the fact that it is stated, and she extended her hand, Deuteronomy 25:11. Do I not know that she took hold of something? Consequently, what is the meaning of the further meaning when further on the verse it states, she took him by his genitals? It is, okay, the story is, just to give you some backup, in Deuteronomy 25:11, maybe let's go there for a moment there. What does it state? It states, Ki yinatsu anashim yachdav ish ve'achiv ve'karva eishes ha'echad lehatzil et isha miyad ma'kehu ve'shalcha yadav ve'hachzika be'mehushav. If 2 men are fighting, one man with the other, and the wife of one comes up to save her husband from his antagonist and puts out her hand and seizes him by his privates. His embarrassing is a mabusha, like the boshes, like it's embarrassing. The Torah says you shall cut her hand off. You show no pity. Now I wonder if this verse, we know that Ein mikra yotze midei pshuto, that's true. All right. The Pashup shot is that you chop her hand off, but is there something deeper here? What is the Pashup shot of this? Again, this might be something to be understood b'derech sod, in the secret esoteric dimension. I've dwelled for a long time on this passage, and I thought that there might be something deeper here. It's not what it seems. It's metaphorical, but apparently, okay. Let's just say it's literal here. Let's say she literally grabbed his thing, and basically you have to whatever. Basically, they're analyzing the verse. The verse says she extended her hand and she grabbed and she took a hold. What they want to analyze, they want to say that it is. Why does it have to say an extra word? She took a hold of. Not she extended her hand, but she extended her hand and she took a hold of. And this teaches you that one who intends to cause damage, even if he does not intend to humiliate the injured party, is nevertheless liable to pay compensation for humiliation. But it also teaches that damage is caused, to pay for damage, one has to intend an action that demonstrates intentional action. And Rabbah says, if one placed a hot coal over another's heart, another great example, okay, let's put it this way. I don't want to be irreverent, but I want to say that I want to go back, and I don't want to just rely upon my own stuff. I want to rely upon a reliable source who said that another reliable source, the Vilna Gaon, said regarding Agadita, and I think it would apply to here as well, that these are exilic. They're of the diaspora. They're not of the redemption. And we need to work through this. Basically, I'm reading this every day because this is where Klal Yisrael is holding. And I am one with Klal Yisrael. I'm one, wherever Klal Yisrael is, that's where I am. And if they're learning about a case, about throwing a baby off a roof and taking a sword and killing the baby, or a woman grabbing the privates, or with a man falling off a roof and going into a woman, or placing a coal in another's heart, if that's where Klal Yisrael is, that's where I am, Ganse. That's where I am, Ganse. But I want to give a disclaimer that I'm saying it's Litoelis. It's not the end goal. This is a train station. People get ready. There's a train to Jordan. The train is going, but we're on a station. Things concerning me have an end, Ganse. I think because of time we have to.